Welcome to Biff's Mystery Theater. I have many tales to tell you. Ghost stories, murder stories, and tales that will make your bones chill. Join me, won't you? For Theater of the Mind, where you always have the best seat in the house. Now close your eyes and turn off the lights.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, William N. Robeson.
Considering the bad time the Spanish conquistador Pizarro gave the Incas of Peru some 400 years ago, you can hardly blame them for leaving a few booby traps scattered around the Andes. And while you may not consider the rainforests of the headwaters of the Amazon an exactly appropriate place for a honeymoon, you must agree that it is people with such wacky ideas who are apt to live dangerously. And dangerously they do live in Door of Gold, starring Myron McCormick. A tale well calculated to keep you in
suspense.
The Peruvian jungle is no place for a woman. But Janice insisted she was an archaeologist first and my bride second. It was rugged. In addition to the snakes, bugs, and mildew, there were the unfriendly Quechua Indians, each of whom claimed to be a direct descendant of the Inca, of Manco Capac himself. It had been slow going. We excavated burial mound after burial mound and found nothing. Perhaps they were right. Maybe my translations were wrong and the Porto de Oro was only a legend. We had only one native guide, a sullen Indian named Juan. So everyone worked. Dr. Clayton, myself, even Janice. Inside the mound that morning, I could hear old Dr. Clayton and Janice chipping away. Suddenly, Janice shouted. What? What have you... Finally. The Porto de Oro.
Congratulations, Philip. You were right. Professor Wellman's translation was in error. Well, it's bound to make you famous, old boy. You realize that.
Oh, Phil, I'm so very pleased for you. They'll have to listen to you now.
I say, look, even Juan is impressed.
Si, senor. For many lifetimes, my people have... Este muy magnífico. Es el Porto de Oro.
This burial mound was built against the mountainside. Like all ancient Inca structures, a marvel of shaped stone and grooved rock. Fitted so neatly no mortar was required. We had torn down a section of the wall facing the mountain until the door was revealed. A door that glittered dully after Janice used chemicals to dissolve the corrosion. There was no mistaking it. Embossed on the metal was a rising sun, its rays throwing streamers of pure gold across the panel.
Is there anything in the inscription that would indicate how to open it?
Well, let's see. It says, light to the seeker comes through the shafts of God.
Well, that makes everything clear.
Oh, patience, child. Your impressions, Philip?
Well, you see where the sun slants through the cracks in the stones up there? You see?
Yes.
Well, it hits the wall in two places.
I say. So they're the shafts of God. They're God.
Correct. Now, you take one, I'll try the other.
What shall we try?
Well, I'd say press in on the stones where the light hits. Most of the hidden doors are counterbalanced.
That's it! You got it! It's moving in and to the side!
In the beginning there was a golden child.
A chill crept along my spine. The religious chanting of the college-educated Huans, the scratch of stone on stone, and the musty odor that crept forth from the now-open tunnel raised the short hairs on the back of my neck. It was silly, I guess. The early sun streamed across the bare floor, but from that dank opening came the odor of death.
Smells pretty bad.
Oh, that child is inexperienced talking. The mere fact we're getting the odor means that there's circulation in there.
Oh. Well, how shall we handle the search inside?
Well, Dr. Clayton, if you wouldn't mind, we'd like to...
Oh, no, not really. I'll go in later. You and the child go. Honeymoon trip, cool darkness, young bride. Sounds romantic.
With that smell, I don't think I could raise a pucker.
You wish Juan to go, senor?
Well, if you don't mind, no. If anything happens, a pivot or a counterbalance stone or something closes the door, we'll need both of you out here to get it open again.
Ah, si. We shall wait.
We quickly gathered the necessary equipment. I belted on 2 flashlights, the 4-battery type, and filled my side pack with spare batteries. Sidearms, a medicine kit, sandwiches, water, of course. Finally, a rope. When we were tied together, I gave Janice the long bamboo probe.
Janice had better go in first, don't you think, old boy?
Yes, I think she should. Now, listen carefully, Janice. Yes. Both of our lives may depend on it. Walk lightly. Place your feet carefully and test each slab before stepping on it.
Oh, now, gentlemen, please. I may just be out of college, but I have studied their culture. I know all about the flip-flop stones.
Very true, youngster. But it's different in a classroom. There you can laugh at a mistake.
The most important thing is to remember if I should go through somewhere, you can't hold me unless you drop flat.
Okay. Let's go before I lose my nerve completely.
Go on.
Okay, senor.
I brought up the rifle so you and Dr. Clayton can keep an eye out for unfriendly natives. If anything should happen, fire 2 shots.
Si. Vaya con Dios, senor. Y senora.
Go with which god, Juan?
Oh, the Christian one, senora. The sun god. He would not like it.
We moved slowly down into the slanted passageway. Nervously, Janice stabbed at each of the fitted blocks with a long probe, while I mapped them, numbering them on our chart. The corridor slanted upward again, and the entrance was gone. We were alone. Suddenly, block 87 swung from under her, and she dropped through. Janice! You all right?
I don't know.
Can you reach your flash?
I think... Yes, I've got it.
What's down there?
It's not too deep. Maybe 30 feet.
Okay, hold tight. I'll pull you up. There you are. See, Daisy?
Oh, we're lucky that pivot stone didn't close. Oh, Phil, hold me close. That's better.
Darling. Just think what this means. We'll make Professor Holloway and that entire bunch at the university crawl when we get back. No money, no official recognition, and all those so-called scholars peering down their noses at us. You wait. It'll be a pleasure to make them eat their words.
Yes, darling. Meanwhile, will you please mark that darned 87 block red?
We went on, skirting the still tilted lip of the pivot stone and inching forward. Twice more, we located swinging traps, the second over a swiftly moving stream. That was why the air was relatively good. Suddenly, Janice stopped, yanking on our connecting ropes.
Phil, I don't like the feel of this block.
What's the matter?
Well, it's no pivot, but it's not solid. It feels like it wants to give downward. Counterbalance, maybe?
Don't put weight on it. Let's work around it and see what's beyond.
Why, is that a door?
Yeah, some kind. That may be what Block 590 controls. You game?
To try it? Sure.
We went back to block number 590 on the chart. Janice lay flat, and I stepped gingerly on it. Sank about a foot, then the hollow thunder reached us. The pressure caught us a moment later.
Phil, what was that?
Afraid to think. Put your hand down near the tunnel floor.
Yes.
Feel anything?
No. Why? Should I?
No, I'm afraid not. We've lost our air circulation.
Oh, Phil.
Probably means 590 closed the main entrance.
Maybe Juan and Dr. Clayton will open it in a minute.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we'll go on a bit. Perhaps that second panel opened at the same time.
Don't you think we ought to go back?
Why? We can't open it from the inside. They'll either get it open or they won't. We crept along silently until we reached the second door. It had not moved. Remembering the entrance, we fumbled with the stones on either side, but they didn't work. We found the combination by accident. None of the stones helped, but when we moved to either end of our rope, preparing to go back, both blocks moved downward slightly, and it opened.
Oh, Phil.
They can't hurt you. They've been sitting there for over 400 years.
You mean they were trapped here? In their own hidden passage?
No, it was the bidding of their sun god. They sat there until it no longer mattered.
How awful.
Yeah, in one way. Yet in another, rather magnificent. When Pizarro raided their city in the sky, what gold they had not thrown in Lake Titicaca was brought down into this tunnel, and they stayed to guard it.
Phil, put your arms around me until I stop shaking.
I managed to soothe her jangled nerves, but there was no one to calm mine. Where was the confounded air circulation? The minute the outer door opened, we would feel it. Surely if Juan wasn't tall enough, Clayton could rig something for him to stand on, or was there something else? We made quick work of it going back. Using the other flash in the chart, we hurried along the tunnel, carefully avoiding the marked traps, until we made the last dip and reached the golden door. It was still closed.
Dr. Clayton! Dr. Clayton, open the door!
Save your strength. That door is 2 feet thick. Clayton! We're back. Can you get it open?
Juan! Dr. Clayton! Can you hear us?
Si, senora. Juan here.
Juan! Where's Dr. Clayton? The two of you can get this open.
Very sad, senor. The good doctor, he has had an accident.
An accident? What kind of a... Oh, never mind now. Go get help. Open door. You hear?
Si, Juan here, but he cannot do this.
Cannot? What do you mean?
From nowhere, the sun god closed door. You, his guest, he would not like if you leave. Juan, stop Dr. Clayton from sacrilege.
Juan! Please!
Juan! What's that noise? What are you doing?
Sun god not one passage found. Juan must rebuild wall.
Phil, what are we going to do? How can we get out?
Losing our heads won't help. We might... What's the altitude of this burial mound?
I don't remember. Wait a minute. Dr. Clayton marked it yesterday. About About 3,600 feet above sea level. Why?
Now, think a minute. My translation said the Porta de Oro would be here.
Yes.
It was. Now, that means this tunnel must be the one which leads up to Machu Picchu. So, if Clayton's figures are nearly correct, it's about a mile west and 3 miles straight up inside the mountain.
Oh, that's a welcome idea. I thought maybe...
I know. Come here. Honey, we mustn't ever give up. We're both trained. We studied the ancient Incas. And if anybody can outwit them, we can.
Thank you, darling. I'm all right now. Let's go.
We went back into the now familiar part of the tunnel, counting blocks and squeezing past the dangerous ones. When we reached the second doorway, we stopped.
Poor devils. They don't look so frightening the second time, all huddled over their belongings.
Janice, what's wrong with you? Now, look here. Pardon me, old man. There. Does that look like personal belongings to you?
Good heavens. I forgot. Is all of that gold?
Pure gold. What you're staring at is the ransom of the Inca sun god. Pizarro murdered him, so the Incas hid the gold here to prevent the Spanish from finding it.
Why, there must be millions.
Yeah. Even at the tiny percentage that would be allowed us by the Peruvian government, this would make us wealthy for life.
Would?
Okay. Will. That better? It was hard to keep the note of doubt from creeping into my voice. The gold had been here 4 centuries. Why? Well, it didn't make sense unless... There was no trouble with traps the next half mile until...
Still, another door. Seems bigger.
Let's try the same positions as before. It might work.
It's moving. Oh, scares me stiff when I start to drop that way.
Keep your eyes open. We're getting tired. We're beginning to be sloppy.
What's that? Down there ahead. Oh, Phil, I'm sorry. Counterbalance.
Oh, what's the difference? May as well have that one closed, too. I doubt if we'll be back. Up, until it seemed as if our legs must drop off. And then, suddenly I heard Janice slump to the steps ahead. Janice, you all right?
I guess so. There's another door. Use the light.
Yeah, sure, honey. Now rest yourself. Oh, no.
What's wrong?
It was all there, right in Almagra's diary. All I had to do was read simple Spanish. No, I've got to be clever and find the Porta de Oro anyway.
Phil, that isn't a door?
No, it's not. In the diary, Diego Almagra wrote, "Their gods were angry and the mountain shook." Look, you see that step? It's sheared right in half.
Earthquake.
Right. When the quake struck, it shifted the other half of the tunnel. Maybe 200 or 300 feet one way or another. This is a dead end.
Oh, no! It can't be! You're trying to frighten me! Phil, don't kill around! Officer, please! Please, Phil, this isn't funny!
Stop that! You hear me? Stop it! Right now! Going to pieces won't help. I hated to slap her, but I had to. And she understood. She didn't say a word. She just turned and went slowly back down. It seemed hours before we reached the bottom of the stairs. Well, the air was much better. Minor consolation. So we would die of thirst and hunger instead of suffocation. We came up against the first of the closed doors. And it wasn't that easy. We tried combination after combination. Then, just as we were ready to drop from exhaustion, we happened to move back from the door, she on the third block and I on the sixth. Instantly, there was that sinking sensation, and the door moved toward us and disappeared flush into the wall.
Oh, come on, Phil, move. If it works on the next door, it might work.
Yes, I know what it might, but we'll take it easy. Charge or no charge, it's dangerous to rush.
Oh, don't be silly.
I felt sick. There was no tension on the rope. The revolving pivot stone had cut it easily. I scrambled to the pivot stone and lay at arm's length while I tried to move it. No dice. Nervously, I felt for the flash and pressed the button. Nothing happened. Again, I tried, then cut my finger as I found the reason. The lens and bulb were smashed. I fumbled for the other flash. It, too, had broken. I was alone in the darkness. Must think. Pressure. Yeah, that was it. Pressure. The third block back needed weight. I crawled to the nearest skeletons and dragged them aside, digging for the sacks of gold beneath. I crawled slowly, tugging some of the heavy ingots with me. Finally, I had a pile of them on the block where I had been standing. I crawled back to the pivot stone. This time, it moved. Janice! Janice, can you hear me?
Phil, thank heaven. Turn the flash down here and let me see.
Can broke when I tried to stop your fall. Both of them. Are you hurt?
I don't think so. I landed on a bunch of our friends.
Is it deep?
I don't think so.
Janice, what's wrong?
Don't know. It had eyes. It's gone. Can you get the rope down to me?
Can you estimate how far?
Wait. I've got the match tin. Wait. There. Can you see me all right?
Yeah. Now, you're lucky. There's quite a pile of them. I'd say 15 feet. Stay still. I'll rig something. I took the remainder of the cord, fortunately, about 9 feet, and tied my belt to it. I added my shirt to the upper end and lowered it through the half-moon opening. Janice, light another match. Okay. Now, here. Can you reach that?
Yes. I've got it.
Easy. I've got my shirt on this end. Just take your end and square knot the two.
I can't. Oh, God. No. There. It's together. Are you ready?
Don't try to help. I want to get hold of the belt before I really pull. Easy. That pivot standing straight up. Don't touch it. We might not be so lucky a second time.
Let me just hold you for a second.
I'll teach you to run in tunnels. Oh, come on now. And cross everything. We've still got a chance. That's all it was. A chance. We edged down the tunnel in the dark, staying close together now since the rope was gone. We tested everything carefully, then found the second door. It was a thrill to stand on the third and sixth blocks and feel them move. I used one of the precious matches to refresh our minds from the chart. Then we began to count backward, walking hand in hand.
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. This is awful. 8. 7. Oh, Phil, 6.
Hold it. I'll stay here and pray. You go to 3.
Here goes nothing. It's opening! Come on!
Juan had rebuilt the wall, but we found no trouble knocking the stones down from inside. At last we were free. Blackness had long settled on the jungle. It was dark in the mound, but to us it was bright. I saw Janice on her knees beside Dr. Clayton.
He's dead.
I'm not surprised.
Phil, what's that?
Come on, run! Run! Get out of here!
I told Dr. Clayton only yesterday that overhead was dangerous.
No, that was man-made. You see up there?
What?
Against the night sky? That's Juan, hiding the sun god's horde. And murder.
We didn't even get a little smidgen of gold. With Dr. Clayton gone, they'll never believe your discovery.
Forget it. Let them keep on believing Wellman's translations. Me for Cusco and home. Coming?
Try and stop me.
Suspense, in which Myron McCormick starred in William N. Robeson's production of Door of Gold by E. Scott Floor. Listen. Listen again next week when we return with another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. Supporting Mr. McCormick in Door of Gold were Shirley Mitchell as Janice, Jay Novello as Juan, and Ramsey Hill as Dr. Clayton. Original musical score composed and conducted by Amerigo Marino. You'd think that jewelry worth $100,000 would shine through a concrete wall. But later on today, when yours truly, Johnny Dollar, tries to locate a boodle of missing gems, the sparklers seem to be lost in darkness. Johnny Dollar, however, is an insurance investigator. For all that his work is adventuresome, he has to work for a living like anybody else. And where those missing gems are concerned, he cannot take no for an answer. For thrill-a-minute listening, follow him to the end of the Templeton Matter, when the next thrill-packed episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, comes your way over most of these same stations a little later on in the day today.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
Talent is an elusive and mystifying phenomenon, and one of the most curious things about it is that it manifests itself in the most unexpected places. One of the most talented sound men in radio broadcasting is Tom Hanley. We did not know until recently that he possesses another talent. He is an extraordinarily fine writer. It is his radio play you are about to hear. Another talent with whom you have been familiar for years is Jack Carson, one of our great comedians, and also a fine dramatic actor. In a moment, he exposes another facet of his quite extensive talents as our storyteller. Listen then as Jack Carson stars in Tom Hanley's terrifying story, Misfire, which begins in exactly 1 minute.
Now, how many of you have heard a doctor lecture on the lining of the stomach and what you're doing to it? Well, you may think this line of gab is only for you. Why, son, doctors have been telling Americans this ever since we became a nation. Like a fella come up to me the other day and asked about that great American Mike Fink. Say, is it true that Mike once ate a buffalo robe? Certainly, and with the hair on it. Well, why did he do that? Well, you see, Mike drank so much whiskey that he destroyed the coating of his stomach, and the doctor told him that before he could get well, he'd need a new coat for it. Mike thought that over and made up his mind that a buffalo robe with hair on it was just the thing. So he sat down and swallowed one. He could drink any amount of whiskey after that, and that's a fact. Folklore belongs to every nation's legendary past, and I guess we Americans have our share of some tall ones.
And now, Misfire, starring Mr. Jack Carson. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Ground zero, somewhere on the desert. We are inside the cab where the bomb, this one called Jackhammer, awaits the impulse from control point 14 miles to the south. Electronic gossips hum and throb their chatter about the health of the patient suspended 500 feet above the desert floor. But the unfeeling machines neglect to mention a human factor this morning, an imprint of carelessness. A small metal wrench jammed in the track of the electronically controlled door. A shift of sand occurs against one of the great steel legs anchored to the desert floor. And a brown-backed desert tortoise trundles out for a look at his world. A world of sage and sand and space stretching endlessly off into the darkness. No man is in sight. That is good. There have been days of hiding from men. But now they have gone, and the tortoise tries his morning legs and plans his new day.
H-1. Place eye protectors in position and turn back to fireball. 55, 54.
From 100 loudspeakers miles removed from ground zero, the tape-recorded voice begins its countdown.
48.
No margin for error now.
46.
No turning
45,
back. Test
44,
shot Jackhammer
43,
is underway.
42. 41.
A mile and a half from ground zero,
39,
a 22-year-old Marine corporal crouches in a trench,
36,
his head rammed into his arms.
34.
He and 1,999 other Marines are there to prove that man is not afraid.
29. 28.
Not really.
27. 26,
A little over a mile from
25,
ground zero, in a
24,
concrete bunker with its air
23,
conditioning secured,
22,
sit these
21,
civil defense men.
20.
They want to know what chance their cities will have
17,
against the day that
16,
must never come.
15, 14.
At control
13,
point, men sit
12,
silently, watching
11,
instruments designed to tell
10,
them how efficiently
9,
Jackhammer does its
8,
job.
7.
And the tortoise slumbers
6,
across his front
5,
yard in search
4,
of breakfast.
3, 2, 1.
Didn't go.
What happened, Doctor?
Misfire.
It's a misfire.
Attention all personnel. Attention all personnel. This is Dr. Thurston. Test shot Jackhammer is incomplete due to undetermined failure. Maintain positions till further notice. You are still on detonation alert.
Now, gentlemen, I will ask for reports from each of you. Be so good as to prepare your...
Lee Thurston, Ph.D., physicist and test director for Test Shot Jackhammer. It is now his responsibility to consolidate all the data from countless machines and scientists in Control Point into a calculation that will reveal the cause for misfire.
Dr. Thurston?
What is it, Butler?
Everything was normal on my phase until H-49.
Grant, that would coincide with your variance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but Frank, you shouldn't have had any reading at all at that time.
On the sub-relay meter, I didn't. It showed normal, and then there was a complete negative to zero response.
Then there it is, Dr. Thurston. It's an on-site rejection of voltage.
Huh. In other words, the fault lies at ground zero.
According to these data, yeah.
Well, can correction be made from here? We can't have anybody going out there.
We'll know after we check the monitor lists.
There's one consolation, Dr. Thurston.
What's that?
We put it together. We ought to be able to take it apart.
Yes. Yes, we ought to. But can we?
The second act of Suspense continues in 1 minute.
Sometimes a man can have too high an opinion of himself. Sometimes that opinion can drive him to great deeds. Here now is one of America's legendary heroes to tell you of some of his unique characteristics. If his adjectives seem a bit outlandish, remember that his image was an inspiration to a pioneering people, and he still affects a nation addicted to TV. I'm that same David Crockett, fresh from the backwoods, half horse, half alligator, a little touched with the snapping turtle, can wade the Mississippi, leap the Ohio, ride upon a streak of lightning, and slip without a scratch down a honey locust, can whip my weight in wildcats, and if a gentleman pleases for a $10 bill, he may throw in a panther. I can hug a bear too close for comfort and beat any man opposed to Jackson. Folklore belongs to every nation's legendary past, and I guess we Americans have our share of some tall ones.
And now, we continue with Act 2 of Misfire, starring Mr. Jack Carson. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
There's no walking away from an atom bomb. No asking who left it there, so it becomes a story of people, the disarming. Lee Thurston, MIT graduate 1932, old enough to have been appalled at the thought of an atom bomb, scientific enough to accept it, human enough to demand influence in its use. John Grant, 36, a red-headed giant who daily deals in miracles, believes in them, makes them work. Frank Butler, former child prodigy, grown bald at 28, bachelor, attendant now at the bigamous wedding of electronics, nuclear fission, and power politics.
An on-site test is the only way to check it out.
No, Butler, that would mean 2 men at ground zero.
But there's no explanation for what we're finding here.
He's right, Doctor. If we accept our data, we have a power failure originating at the cab itself.
With a risk of delayed detonation, Grant. You can't forget that.
I'm not. There are 2,000 Marines and 12 CD men out there. How long can they wait?
Dr. Thurston?
Yes, what is it?
General Matting on the phone, sir. Wants to know if he can evacuate yet.
No, not until we know more about the cause of the misfire. I'll let him know.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Winship.
Yes?
Tell the photo lab I can't wait any longer for those final pictures of the patch bay under the bomb.
I will, sir.
For now, we'll go over those monitor checklists again, gentlemen. We mustn't have any errors.
NewsNob has a mathematics of its own. The bomb plus the names of the men in Control Point plus a little background data equals a story. Mention that these men were in high school when the first atomic pile was activated. Mention that it would have taken that first pile 150,000 years to make enough plutonium to satisfy this bomb. Point out how the Cold War overcame all that. But tell mostly of the struggle to stop Jackhammer this morning. Hello, New York?
Get me Barney, will you, honey? Tell him it's Pierce. Yeah, well, then call him at home. It's important. Hey, where'd you get the coffee? I need some. I'm freezing over here.
Here you go.
Hey, thanks a lot. Hello, Barney. Now, listen, you better call that off and go on into the office. This may develop into something out here. The bomb didn't go off. No, not a delay. It just didn't take. Well, the rumor we hear is that the last boys to hook it up are going to have to go out and coax it down. How do I know who it'll be? Yeah, I know that's what I'm here for. I know. Yeah, and Barney, don't call me. I'll call you.
The Marine lies flat now. Permission granted. He hears unsolicited advice from his buddy on how to run an atom bomb test, but he thinks about Vegas. And he wonders whether he'll ever see her again. The girl with the dark hair, the dark eyes, the wonderful smile, and the Cadillac convertible. In the civil defense shelter, it's hot. No air conditioning for 40 minutes now. These heavy clothes and sealed up this way. Somebody better call control. They must have forgotten us. But they haven't. They're concerned with more important things at control, like the photo lab with the final pictures of the victim, Jackhammer. Pictures of the bomb with its viscera displayed, A to B and yellow to ground. The proper circuit for agony.
Well, this one's okay. This one's all right. The pictures show the patch cords are all okay, Dr. Thurston.
Oh, wait a minute. Just a minute now. We've always assumed that if we got power to the site proper, that it would go on to the bomb.
Of course. The door to the cab completes the circuit. Voltage to the door, voltage to the bomb.
All right, then. What if the voltage didn't get beyond the door?
Oh, that's impossible. Our monitors show the door completely closed.
All right, but what if it didn't? For some reason.
What reason? What could go wrong that wouldn't show on the monitors?
I don't know, but it's got to be out there. Let me go check it.
I can't order anybody out there.
I'm asking to go.
I'll go with you, Frank.
No.
Well, if anybody goes, it should be two. You'd need a phone line during the climb in case we found anything here. You'd need test equipment, tools for opening the door manually, radiation test gear, and a wrench. That disconnect would have to be made immediately, Frank.
A wrench?
What's the matter? You look ill.
No, nothing, sir. I've had no sleep, I guess.
500 feet and no power for the elevator, Frank. I'll go with you.
All right. But I ought to go alone.
Act 3 of Suspense follows in 1 minute.
Do you know the Social Security benefits to which you will be entitled when you separate from the service and take a civilian job? Here's a tip from Social Security.
When you open an account at a store, a special record is usually started for you. When you get a Social Security account card, a personal record is also started for you, using both your name and the number of your card. To be sure your Social Security record is correct, it's a good idea to check your Social Security record every few years. To get a statement of your earnings from the Social Security records, you can use postcard form 7004. This form is yours by writing to Social Security, Department 15, Hollywood 28, California. That's postcard form 7004.
And now, we continue with Act 3 of Misfire, starring Mr. Jack Carson. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
The afterbirth of darkness is light, the insipid gray light of a desert dawn. The night animals scurry homeward, and the day things begin their minor motions, and slowly it begins. The gradual creep of light and warmth across the land, till its source explodes in the vastness of the desert. There it becomes the sudden kiss of heat, heat that warms, heat that kills, and the in-between heat, the heat that expands. Man's product, the awkward wrench, lies in its cramped position on the tower. Having severed the connection to the bomb, it tries to make amends by stretching, ever so slightly expanding, encouraged by the heat of the sun. The electronic condensers on the door await their cue, metal on metal, and the blinding concussion that has no beginning nor any end. And the tortoise, unaware, accepts his gifts from the land and goes in search of his image.
I better go up first, John.
No, you got to man the phone. I'll start first, open the door manually, and check for radiation. Then you shoot in and disconnect the thing.
All right. Hey, John?
Yeah.
You think we'll ever get off the tower?
We may never get on it if we sit here and talk. Let's go.
Hello, Barney. Now listen, they've started climbing the tower. That's right, 500 feet. I don't know how many stories that is. The Washington Monument is 550, I think, but... Now, look, get this, Barney. Play this one straight, will you? No heroics. This one will stand on its own. Sure, we're on a detonation alert. Well, who knows what's going to happen?
The fear of falling. It never goes away. It only becomes conditioned to the environment. And 500 feet straight up has no relation to man. To look down or not to look down, this becomes the problem. And what do you look at? The eyes of the man below you? No. They reflect the fear of two men. The expanse of dry lake, do you look at that? No. It shimmers in the coming heat, brings on the dizziness. Do you look inside yourself at the fear of God? You might look there, that might help. But for the most part, you climb. You lift each aching limb after the other. One platform after another. One after another.
Rest a second, Frank. How you doing?
Okay. How much further?
One more platform, Frank. Just one more.
It's murder.
There's one consolation, though.
What?
Going down. We'll have power to the elevator afterwards, and we'll ride down.
Maybe. If there is an afterwards.
The wrench. It's missing from the kit. Couldn't be up here, though. Couldn't possibly be. Must have dropped it, but not up here. Not where it could do damage.
Better get on the phone and tell Dr. Thurston we're here.
Okay. Dr. Thurston? Dr. Thurston?
Yes.
We're at the top.
Good. Have you found anything?
Grant is at the door now. We'll make a manual entry as soon as we can.
Good.
Frank, tell him to read the voltage sheet on this door. I don't think it's completely closed.
Check the voltage sheet on the door, Doctor.
Hey, Frank, come here.
What is it?
Yes, hello. Were you talking to me?
Hold it, Doctor.
There, can you see it? Here. Look, from here. There's a small wrench.
Oh, no.
It's wedged in the door there. You see it?
John, it's mine. That's my wrench. I must have dropped it when we were up here arming the bomb.
It can happen. Look, through the glass. It severed the detonation circuit. That's what happened.
But it completed the door contact.
Sure, that's why the monitors didn't show it. Good Lord, Frank, look how close it is to making contact.
John, that's going to go any second.
Take it easy now. Move and shade that thing. Heat expansion will set it off.
How's this?
Give me the phone. Dr. Thurston. Dr. Thurston, can you hear me?
Grant, is that you?
Now listen carefully. We've found the problem. A small hand wrench has been accidentally dropped into the door track.
Good Lord.
Now, apparently it severed the detonation circuit, but it's so close to making the contact now that we've got to have power to the door.
Not while you're there. Come off the tower. We'll open it.
No, you don't understand. The door condensers are already loaded with enough power to detonate the bomb.
Well, is the wrench above the contact?
Yes.
Then opening the door will drop the wrench and set it off.
Look, you got to give me power, just enough to make the door jump. I'm putting a pair of pliers on the wrench. I'll yank it out as soon as you loosen the door.
What if you miss?
I'll never know about it.
John, you got to do something fast. The sun is
Thurston,
moving.
you've got to. You can't leave us like this.
I can't risk it. Try to get back.
No chance. Now, if you could only see it.
All right. I'll do it. Winship, give me ground zero power on my count. Just do it. I can't explain now. Grant?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Grant, I'll give you a 10-second count.
Make it 5.
All right, 5. Now get a good hold on that wrench. 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. Is that it, Grant? Grant, are we out of it?
Nice going, John.
We're out of it, Thurston. We're out now. The bomb can't go off.
The desert sun continues to work its subtle magic on the wrench, expanding ineffectually on the platform floor. The Marine stands up in the trench. The CD men emerge from their steel shelter to the relative chill of the desert heat. The newsmen converge on ground zero. The redhead and the baldhead hop from the welcome elevator to see a tortoise scurrying ponderously towards his burrow. They pick him up, and he pretends he's not there at all, but he is, and they know it. So they take him back to control point to live for another day.
Suspense, in which Mr. Jack Carson starred in William N. Robeson's production of Misfire, written by Tom Hanley. In a moment, the names of the players who supported Mr. Carson in Misfire and word about next week's story of Suspense.
This is Johnny Baker with Communism on the Spot. In speeches and newspaper articles and over radio and television, the communist leaders constantly state that everything they do is guided by the people's interests. All this adds up to just another of their big lies. The Soviet government is rule of the few, by the few, for the few. The small group that rules is interested above all in staying in power and adding to that power. Its members treat the masses as pawns to be moved around as they see fit. The people have only one right: the right to do as they're told by the small clique which makes policy and gives the orders.
Supporting Mr. Carson in Misfire were John Daner, Barney Phillips, Sam Pierce, Eddie Firestone, and Norm Alden. Listen. Listen again next week when we return with Miss Margaret Whiting in The Well-Dressed Corpse. Another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Suspense has been brought to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service. Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, Boy gets girl. That's the classic formula for a Hollywood love story. But it will not suffice for a suspense story. We need other elements to thicken the plot and chill the blood. Elements such as a deserted shanty in the high Rockies, a cloudburst, and a pitchfork murderer. Such ornaments we have placed on the bare branches of the boy meets girl plot, with results which we hope will keep you in suspense. Listen then, as Miss Vanessa Brown stars with Jim Amici in Affair at Loveland Pass, which begins in exactly 1 minute.
Memo on medals. Information about our military awards and decorations. Service medals are given for honorable performance by military personnel in specified geographical areas between specified dates. Unit decorations are those awarded to cited units of the armed forces for exceptional performance in armed conflict. In most cases, they are worn centered immediately above the right breast pocket, while individual decorations and service medals are worn over the left breast pocket. Many American awards and decorations may be presented to people of other countries, but not the Purple Heart. This distinguished and cherished medal was first conceived by George Washington during the Revolutionary War, the purpose being to demonstrate, in his own words, that the road to glory in a patriot army and free country is open to all. Awarding of the Purple Heart was discontinued after the Revolutionary War until it was revived in 1932 as a memorial to our first president on the occasion of the 200th anniversary of his birth. As recognition for special acts of public service, medals are among the most coveted of all awards.
And now, Affair at Loveland Pass, starring Vanessa Brown with Jim Amici. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Now, I'm not exactly what you could call a rugged outdoor type. But when an old college classmate of mine invited me to spend my vacation with him on a packed trip in the Rockies, it sounded like fun. So I stocked up on camping equipment at Abercrombie & Fitch in New York and headed west. 5 days later, I was climbing through the pines and aspens of Loveland Pass west of Denver. I was above timberline when I rounded a curve, and there in front of me was a parked car and the figure beside it waving frantically. I had been warned by the Auto Club not to pick up hitchhikers or stop for strangers, and I was about to drive right on by when I noticed that it was a girl. A very pretty girl, and she seemed to be very frightened. So, against my better judgment, I stopped. Hello! What's the matter?
Oh, thank heavens you came by. Oh, I'm so scared.
What's the matter?
I don't know. My car won't go. I've been sitting here for nearly an hour. You're the first car that's come through.
Yes, this is a pretty lonely road.
I was listening to the radio about that murderer.
The fellow with the pitchfork?
Yes. How did you know?
I heard about him down in Idaho Springs. They have a real Wild West posse looking for him. Cowboys on horses.
They'll never catch him. The radio says he stole a car. I was afraid when you came along you might be him. And then I saw your New York license plates. He stole a car with Wyoming plates. A 53 Mercury coupe.
Well, you have nothing to fear. This is not a Mercury, and as you yourself have noticed, the license plate's in New York.
Yes. Are you from New York?
Yes.
New York City?
Manhattan Island, right in the middle, 55th and Park.
Gee, I always wanted to see New York.
It's quite a town.
Bet it is.
Now, what's the matter with your car?
I don't know. It just stopped. I don't know the first thing about automobiles.
Neither did I, but somehow I didn't want to admit it to her. Because, well, she was so pretty. So I tried the starter and checked the gas and examined the instruments, and then I raised the hood and fumbled around, tapping things here and there in the maze of wires and coils and gadgets, and then I stepped on the starter again, and of course nothing happened. And I realized that all I was accomplishing was running the battery down. Finally, I gave up.
No?
No. I'm afraid it's beyond me.
Oh, what am I going to do?
Well, you can't sit here, that's for sure. It'll be dark in a little while. I think you'd better come along with me.
With you? Where?
To the next town. We'll find a mechanic there.
How far is that?
Well, let's take a look at the map. Let's see. Next town's Dillon. Doesn't look very big from the size of the type.
How far is it?
About 25 miles. We've got Loveland Pass to cross before we get there, nearly 12,000 feet. So we better get started.
Do you think it'll be safe?
The car? You can lock it. It's a cinch nobody can move it.
I wasn't thinking of the car.
Don't worry about my driving. I'm a very cautious driver.
Well, that wasn't exactly
Listen, my dear young lady, it's getting late, and if you prefer, I'll be on my way, and you can sit here in the dark all night long.
I didn't quite mean
It's
that.
up to you.
I guess I haven't much choice, have I?
It's up to you. I don't want to force your decision.
I'll go with you.
In a moment, we continue with the second act of Suspense.
A couple of 1,000 years ago, the ancient sage Diogenes remarked that all things are in common among friends. Well, he didn't mean that only material goods were in common among friends, but that they shared their troubles as well. For a long time, the United States Armed Forces have been a friend in time of need, during fires, floods, and pestilence all over the world. Many peoples of the earth have come to believe in the friendship which the U.S. military personnel have spread for so many years, and the calls for help they answer in time of personal emergency, a response which has always been immediate. Not long ago, a Korean Buddhist nun was suffering from beriberi, an advanced form of acute malnutrition. But she was living in an isolated monastery deep in the Korean hills and valleys. Her sister nuns contacted the nearest Army Signal Corps relay station, and wheels began turning. In no time, an Army helicopter landed at the station's helipad. American soldiers carried the stricken nun to the copter. She was flown to a waiting ambulance and whisked away to the hospital. Her recovery was rapid, thanks to the United States Army, her newfound friends. Army helicopter men helped in many other ways. Over the 108 islands of the Ryukyus that spread from southern Japan to northern Formosa, Army helicopters are constantly whirling their blades as they hop from one island to another on missions of mercy. They bring food donated by American women on Okinawa, or they bring vital medicine to save a life. They also bring friendship and understanding and freedom, the right of all men everywhere.
And now, starring Vanessa Brown with Jim Amici, Act 2 of Affair at Loveland Pass.
You were right.
About what?
You're driving. I feel perfectly safe with you.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Stanley Dorrance. What's yours?
Pauline Weatherby. People call me Polly.
Well, I'm glad to meet you, Polly.
Thank you, Stanley.
My friends call me Stan.
I'm glad to meet you too, Stan.
And what were you doing up here in the mountains all alone?
Well, I came out from Chicago with a girlfriend to take an art course in Colorado Springs. And we wanted to see some of the scenery before we went home.
What happened to the girlfriend?
The day before summer school was over, she got word her mother was sick. She had to go back to Chicago by train.
And you decided to see the scenery all by yourself?
Yes. But gee, it's scary.
What, the scenery?
No, the scenery's beautiful, but when something happens to your car, that's scary.
Sure it is.
Where are you going?
Durango. I'm supposed to go on a pack trip with some friends. Uh-oh.
What's the matter?
It's beginning to rain.
Oh, it's probably just a summer shower.
This is just silly. This is no summer shower. It's a cloudburst.
Why are you stopping?
I can't see to drive.
I am sorry.
For what?
Well, if I hadn't stopped you back there, you'd be over the pass by now, sitting in a nice, dry hotel somewhere.
And where would you be? Sitting in the rain all alone and probably scared to death. It's better this way.
You know, you're a very nice man.
Thank you.
I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come along.
Yeah. Hey, well, what do you know?
What?
Off to the side of the road, a shanty.
Where?
Where till I train this spotlight on it? There.
Oh, yes. Hey, maybe the people let us in till the rain stops, huh?
I doubt it.
Why?
Because there's nobody there.
Well, how do you know?
Look at it. Windows broken, door wide open. It's deserted.
Oh.
But I'll bet it'll be drier than this car. Here, wrap my coat around you and we'll make a dash for it.
Do you think it's safe?
Sure, why not?
Well, I don't know. It's scary.
It's also dry. Come on. Yeah, there we are. How about this? Not a leak.
Oh, scary.
Oh, Polly, everything's scary to you. Here, I'll flash the light around. See? Nothing to be scared of. Fireplace, broken down chair, rickety table. Regular little gray home of the West.
Oh, Stan, look.
What?
Those eyes over there. It's a wildcat.
Where? Oh, silly. It's only a rat. Not a sewer rat, a pack rat. Haven't you ever heard of pack rats?
No.
They're quite harmless. He's much more frightened of us than we are of him.
How do you know?
I read it in a book.
Oh.
Hungry?
A little.
Well, I think it's time we had some dinner.
Dinner? Where?
Right here.
What are we going to eat? Pack rats?
No, I've got some canned goods out in the car and some other stuff. We can be quite comfortable here.
All night?
Well, until the rain stops. You wait here.
You wait here? Alone?
All right, then. You keep the flashlight. I'll be right back. It took me 2 trips back to the car to unload the gear, and I couldn't admit to Polly how desperately I needed the flashlight. For those 2 trips in the pounding rain were not only the wettest, but the longest I've ever made in my life. I was sure there was a vicious wild animal hiding behind every tree ready to pounce on me. I couldn't let on to Polly. After all, she was more scared than I was, if that were possible. There now. First, we'll get a little light on the subject. There.
Oh, a gasoline lantern. Oh, how wonderful.
Now, a little music.
Oh, no, don't tell me. You got a radio?
Yep. Battery job for occasions like this.
Police have erected roadblocks throughout 5 states in an effort to apprehend Big Red, who this afternoon pitchforked and killed the foreman at the Lazy R Ranch near Bailey. The search of a mounted sheriff's posse was discontinued late today when it was learned that the killer had stolen a 1953 Mercury coupe with Wyoming license plates. We return you now to our regularly scheduled program.
Stan, what if he took this road?
What if he did?
Well, he might murder us.
What for? He doesn't even know us. No, Polly, if this character has any sense, he'll head for the nearest big city. In this case, Denver, ditch that hot car and lose himself along Skid Row.
Are you sure?
Sure, that's what I'd do if I were a murderer.
Are you?
Really now.
I'm sorry.
If you've got any doubts about me, you're free to leave.
In this rain?
We are sort of stuck with each other, aren't we?
I guess so.
All right, then. Stop worrying. What'll you have for dinner? Beans or beans?
Beans will be fine. You going to cook them in the fireplace?
Nope. We'll have a fire for aesthetic purposes, but the beans will cook quicker on this little Primus stove.
Oh, what a man. You got everything.
Thank you.
In the way of camping equipment, I mean.
That's what I thought you meant. More coffee?
No, thanks. Oh, it was a wonderful meal, Stan. I don't know when anything's tasted so good.
Mountain air. You were hungry.
It's funny.
What?
I'm a city girl. The biggest place out of doors that I know anything about is Lincoln Park in Chicago. I get jittery when I'm not walking on a concrete sidewalk within earshot of a traffic jam. here I am in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, sitting in the firelight with a man I've only met a couple of hours ago, and somehow it seems to be all right.
Of course it's all right. And in any case, it's a situation we've got to make the best of.
What are you doing?
Setting up the cot.
What for?
You?
You mean we are going to spend the night here?
Looks like we'll have to.
Now look here, Stan. Don't get any ideas that
Oh, for heaven's sake, Polly, don't you get any ideas. There we are. Now, nice eider-down sleeping bag on top of the cot, and you'll be as snug as a bug in a rug.
I don't think this looks quite right.
Who's watching?
Where will you sleep?
I'll just curl up here on the floor.
Look, you won't get any rest sleeping on that hard floor. I think we ought to go on.
Polly, we can't go on until the rain stops, and we might as well be comfortable. Now crawl in and get some sleep. Better take off your shoes.
But that's all.
Of course that's all. Now crawl in.
Well, all right.
Comfortable?
Yes, thanks. And you?
Just great.
Stan,
Yes?
have you got a gun?
What for?
Wild animals.
No, silly.
What will you do if a bear comes sniffing around?
He won't.
How do you know?
This country's too civilized nowadays. Why, they even have a television tower on Lookout Mountain where Buffalo Bill is buried.
Oh. Stan,
Yeah,
I'm not scared anymore, even in the dark.
that's good.
You know why?
Why?
Because you're here, and I think you're the bravest man I ever met.
Go to sleep. Sleep? I couldn't sleep. I was terrified lying there on the floor of that cabin, listening to the rain pounding on the roof. I was uncomfortable and cold, and I thought morning had never come. But I must have dozed off sometime, because I was rudely and abruptly awakened by the hideous scream of a mountain lion pouncing on me.
In just a moment, we continue with the third act of Suspense.
How does our nation honor heroism? One way is to award the Soldier's Medal, a bronze octagon on which is displayed an eagle standing between two groups of stars. The medal is suspended from a blue ribbon with 13 narrow stripes in the center, 7 white and 6 red. One of the newest and least known of all the American decorations, the Soldier's Medal, authorized in 1926, is bestowed for heroism not involving actual conflict with an armed enemy. There are many forms of gallantry in addition to those demonstrated in battle. The Soldier's Medal was conceived to honor those soldiers who, in non-combat situations, perform bravely and at great peril to themselves. Men who serve as an inspiration to others. The Soldier's Medal holds an important place among America's awards for heroism.
And now, starring Vanessa Brown with Jim Amici, Act 3 of Affair at Loveland Pass.
I was sure I was being attacked by a mountain lion until I realized that it was fully clothed. It was Polly who had screamed and thrown herself on the floor by my side.
Stan.
What's the matter?
Outside, there's something outside. A bear or something.
Oh, stop being silly. There aren't any bears in these mountains.
Listen.
It's probably just our friend, the pack rat.
It sounds bigger.
Well, the rain stopped and the moon's out. I'll take a look.
Be careful.
Hey, Polly. Down there on the road. There's a car parked behind mine, and somebody's got my hood up. You stay here. I'm going to find out what's going on.
I'm going with you.
All right, but stay behind me. This may mean trouble.
You'll be able to handle it, I know.
Come on. Hey, you. What's the big idea?
Huh?
What's the big idea, I said?
This your car?
Yes.
Got the keys?
Yes.
Hand them over.
What for?
I'm borrowing this heap. I was just trying to bypass ignition, but since you got the keys, you'll save me the trouble. Now hand them over.
Stanley's got a gun.
Hey, well, what a break. A traveling companion.
Stan?
Get in, sister. You and me are taking a ride. You'll be nice window dressing in case anybody asks questions.
Stan!
Get in, baby,
Stan!
now!
Doors, big red. Sure, didn't you notice, Polly, that car, 1953 Mercury, Wyoming plates?
Oh.
I thought your specialty was pitchforks, Red.
Seems your specialty is talking too much.
Where'd you get the gun?
That ain't as important as what I'm gonna do with it. I'll give you one more chance to hand over them keys, and if you ain't quick about it, I'll take them off your dead body.
What good will that do you? You'll never get through the roadblocks.
I'll worry about that. You can't burn any hotter for 2 murders than you can for 1. Now, if you don't hand over them keys when I count to 3. 1, 2, 3.
Polly! Bullseye! Where'd you get that piece of firewood you conked him with?
Had it with me all the time.
All the time?
Mm-hmm. I took it to bed with me.
Why?
For protection.
Well, you two young people are to be congratulated.
Thank you, Sheriff, but it's really Polly who should get the credit. He'd have plugged me if she hadn't conked him on the noggin.
Still, it takes a lot of courage to stand up before a dangerous killer like you did.
That's not all, Sheriff. You should have seen him in that cabin. He went right off to sleep on that hardwood floor without a thought for mountain lions or bears or anything.
Oh, well, I tried to explain to her, Sheriff, that there aren't any wild animals in these mountains anymore.
What?
Well, there aren't, are there?
Why, the bears come down and raid our garbage cans almost every night. They're a pesky nuisance. And up there near that shack where you were, my deputy Luke Johnson shot a 150-pound cat just last week.
Sheriff, I wonder if you could get me a glass of water. I feel a little...
Why, sure. You just sit there quiet. I'll be right back.
What's so funny?
Well, then you were scared, huh? Just a little bit?
Terrified. Every minute.
Oh, darling, I'm so glad you're human.
Suspense, in which Vanessa Brown starred with Jim Amici in Affair at Loveland Pass, written, produced, and directed by William N. Robeson. Supporting Miss Brown and Mr. Amici in Affair at Loveland Pass were Barney Phillips and Jim Nusser. Listen. Listen again next week when we return with Miss Frances Farmer and Miss Kathy Lewis in The Sisters. Another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Suspense has been brought to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
There's an old saw which says you can't fool all of the people all of the time. Neither can you please all of the people all of the time. Recently, our presentation of Edgar Allan Poe's great horror story, The Pit and the Pendulum, displeased some listeners who felt that we should not have made the Spanish Inquisition the villain. Yet, had we not done so, we would have displeased others who feel that Poe's classic story should not be tampered with. We face a similar quandary with tonight's story. It concerns a man who steals another man's wife. For dramatic reasons, which shall be evident, the wife stealer is a psychoanalyst. But let it be emphasized that this is not to be construed as a condemnation of psychoanalysis any more than it is a condemnation of wayward wives or a justification of murdering husbands. Listen then as Jack Carson stars in Analytical Hour, which begins in just a moment.
Now, Analytical Hour, starring Mr. Jack Carson. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I've told you before, Margaret, I don't think it's wise for you to phone me at the office like this. He's acting strangely. Well, he probably got delayed. I'm sure he'll call you any minute with a logical explanation. Doctor. Excuse me. Well, Mr. Nelson, come in.
Thank you, Doctor. I know it's late and I didn't have an appointment, but I had to see you.
Yes, of course. Sit down. I'll be with you in a moment. Now, my dear, I'm sure you'll have no cause for worry. I've had a patient drop in unexpectedly, so let me call you as soon as he leaves. Yes, goodbye.
I want to tell you how I feel, Doctor.
Oh? Well, how do you feel, Mr. Nelson?
Fine. Just fine. The migraine headache is gone, the dizziness, the heart palpitation, all gone.
Well, that's splendid. Then our sessions together over the past 6 months are beginning to bear fruit.
Oh, they have borne fruit. I've never felt so sure of myself in my life, so free.
I see. Well, this is very interesting, Mr. Nelson. Let me get out your file and make some notes.
No.
No? Well, why not? You've exhibited remarkable improvement, and I'd like to put it into the record. After all, this is the data from which prognosis is made, and if it isn't complete...
Close it up.
Well, all right.
What I have to say is between you and me, man to man. If you wrote it down, it might... it might be used against me.
I don't follow you.
Well, a doctor, especially a psychoanalyst, never discloses what a patient tells him, but if it's not in writing, it would be your word against mine, wouldn't it?
Really, Mr. Nelson,
What time is it?
Nearly 7.
Has your nurse gone for the day?
Yes, she left an hour ago.
Good. Then we can, we can get down to cases, can't we?
Mr. Nelson, you don't have an appointment. It's getting late.
Sit down and listen to me. When I first came to you, I told you that my relationship with my wife was less than ideal. You listened very patiently. You drew me out in my childhood associations, my parental approval and disapproval patterns, and always you drew me back to my relationship with my wife. You wanted to know what the attraction between us was based upon. With infinite detail, you got from me my innermost thoughts and desires with respect to my wife. Is that right?
Yes.
And it's all in the file. Every question, every answer. Well, after 6 months, you've arrived at some conclusions, haven't you?
Your analysis isn't completed.
Yes. Yes, it is. I completed it last night.
You? How do you mean?
There was only one possible conclusion. That I hate my wife.
Oh, now, just a moment. Hate, it's a relative term. It has validity only when placed in proper perspective.
Exactly, and I repeat. Migraine headache gone. Dizziness gone. Heart palpitation gone.
Yes, but your diagnosis is an oversimplification. These physical manifestations couldn't disappear simply because you arrive at the conclusion that you hate your wife.
Oh, no. Well, I did something about it.
Now, Mr. Nelson, if you're going to tell me you've run away from your wife...
No, I didn't run away.
Well, then what did you do?
I killed her.
And now, starring Mr. Jack Carson, Act 2 of Analytical Hour.
That's right, Doctor. I killed her.
You killed Margaret? I mean, your wife? But you couldn't have.
Why do you find it so hard to believe?
Well, but no man in his right mind will kill another human being, no matter what the provocation.
A few minutes ago, you said I was an intelligent man.
You are. You were. Wait a minute. When did you say this happened?
Last night.
Last night? Uh-huh. I see. Now, surely you realize that if you have committed murder, it's only a matter of time until the police will be searching for you.
Of course.
Well, doesn't that concern you?
Not in the least.
Then if you have no intention of running or of hiding, you should give yourself up right now.
No, not yet.
Why?
We haven't finished our discussion.
Mr. Nelson, what have we to discuss? Murder as a solution to a personally untenable situation is not acceptable in the eyes of society.
At first you were startled, Doctor, but now you're giving me a lecture on the ethics and morality of murder, as if we were having a disinterested conversation in logic. Could it be that you doubt I killed her?
If you say you did, why should I doubt you?
Your reaction. Reaction is a key word in the medical and psychiatric fields, isn't it?
Yes.
Then why are you taking the murder of my wife so lightly?
I've had years of professional training, and I'm not going to panic just because a patient tells me he's committed murder.
Telling you is one thing. Your believing it is another. If you believed it, under the circumstances, I think it would ruffle your professional calm.
All right, I don't believe you. This is a mental quirk. It's an aberration, a figment of your imagination.
Is it?
You haven't committed murder. Oh, undoubtedly you wanted to, but you've substituted the desire for the fact. The pattern's perfectly clear. Now, I'm going to shock you, Mr. Nelson, because we've reached the point in your analysis where shock will be of the utmost value to you.
All right.
And then I'm going to recommend that you take legal steps to divorce your wife. Get rid of the physical cause of this fixation of yours, and eventually you'll achieve a normal mental outlook. Is that clear?
Yeah, perfectly. But not very logical.
Why not?
How can I divorce a woman who is dead?
Your wife is not dead.
You know, I was wondering when you'd tell me I should divorce her. It's too bad you waited so long.
Oh, stop it. Can't I convince you? You're imagining all this. You're playing games with your mind. Now, if you continue like this, it could lead to permanent insanity. Now, listen to what I'm going to tell you.
I'm listening.
When you walked into this office a few moments ago, I was talking on the telephone. Is that correct?
Yes.
I was talking to Margaret, your wife. She is alive, Mr. Nelson. Quite alive.
In a moment, we continue with the third act of Suspense. Now, starring Mr. Jack Carson, Act 3 of Analytical Hour.
I tell you, Mr. Nelson, your wife is alive.
I know.
You know?
Well, perhaps I didn't know what I suspected it.
Good heavens, man, I've just told you your wife is alive. I have positive personal knowledge that this is a fact. Now, doesn't that make an impression on you?
Yes, it makes an impression on me, but not in the way you think.
You still persist in this hallucination that you've committed murder.
You called her Margaret.
I beg your pardon?
My wife. You called her Margaret. Now, let me ask you a question, Doctor. Do you always refer to the wives of your male patients by their first name?
Well, I used it for emphasis.
Mm-hmm. For emphasis. During the past 6 months, you have referred to her as Mrs. Nelson or your wife, but never as Margaret. Now, suddenly, for emphasis, you call her Margaret.
What are you driving at?
Your reactions are becoming less professional and considerably more human, Doctor. I'll tell you what I'm driving at. Officially, you met Margaret just once. 6 months ago, when we both came here to set up the series of appointments for me. If you'll remember, it was Margaret who thought psychoanalysis would help me. She's the one who selected you, and for a very good reason.
If you're insinuating...
I'm not insinuating, I'm telling you. There never has been anything wrong with me that couldn't have been remedied by an honest wife, a feeling of marital security. But she's destroyed that with your active and willing help.
You know what you're saying.
Certainly. My wife and you are lovers. You have been for months, even before I met you.
All right, let's drop the doctor-patient relationship. Suppose I were to admit it. Suppose I asked you to get a divorce, not for psychiatric reasons, but so I could marry Margaret. Would you do it?
No. It's too late.
Why? Look, I'll admit everything you say. Margaret and I have been in love with each other for nearly a year. We thought we'd kept it a secret from you, from everyone. I honestly thought if I could take you far enough in analysis, I could get you to realize that she is not the woman for you. That you aren't and never would be really happy together.
You can't tamper with emotions this way. You're not God.
No, but I'm human.
So you are. Subject to anguish, despair, and anxiety.
Do you think I've liked this situation, that I've enjoyed it?
You've been a willing party to it.
Then let's end it right now. Let me call Margaret, ask her to come here to the office where the three of us can discuss this situation as reasonable, intelligent, adult human beings.
Go ahead.
One thing still concerns me. Why were you so insistent that you killed her?
Well, you called it playing games with my mind.
I know that's dangerous. Possible incipient form of schizophrenia. I'll have to work with you on that. It could get you into trouble.
Depends on your definition of trouble.
Hello? Hello, Margaret. Yes. Yes, I'm still at the office. No, he's here with me. Now, Margaret, there's nothing to be alarmed about. I want you to come here right away. As soon as possible. You'll drive right over. Good. Yes, he knows. All right. Half an hour.
Intelligent, adult human beings.
You know, this is going to be good for all of us. No more dissembling or hiding our true emotions. I'm glad you came here this evening and demanded a showdown. It indicates more emotional maturity than I thought you possessed.
Doctor, you know what I do for a living?
Yes, you're some sort of a chemist.
Yes, she's a chemist. And do you know my specialty?
Something to do with foods, I believe.
That's right. If you were contemplating murder, you'd utilize the materials about which you knew the most, wouldn't you?
Oh, now, don't start that again. I'm not contemplating murder, and neither are you. Oh, I can understand why you feel as you do, but this is a phase that'll pass. When Margaret gets here, we'll talk it out, and you'll be a free man emotionally.
I am now.
Not if you persist in bringing up the subject of murder.
It's going to be a fact to you sooner than you think.
All right. If it'll make you feel better, talk about it. But Margaret is alive, and nothing you think or say can change that.
Now, I'm going to shock you. I'm quite certain I'll be more successful than you were with me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you know what botulism is?
Of course. It's a type of food poisoning.
Yes. Food poisoning caused by a toxin produced when foods are improperly canned. Or it could be introduced into foods which had never been canned at all, if one knew how to do it.
Still on the murder theme, huh?
Botulism toxin attacks the nervous system, distorts vision, causes muscular weakness. If antitoxin serum is not used, death usually follows from respiratory paralysis.
That's very ingenious, but I don't... Oh, no.
Beginning to get it, eh? Of course, you know, symptoms of botulism appear 18 to 36 hours after consumption of poisoned food.
No.
Margaret is in her 25th hour at this moment.
You fiend.
You are shocked. By the way, it would be dangerous for a person to drive an automobile when the poison might strike at any moment.
Margaret!
Put down that phone.
I've got to phone the police.
It's too late for that. You're not going to call the police or anyone else.
Margaret.
How does it feel, Doctor? Apply the clinical technique. Come up with a prognosis. Do something. Make a break for the door. Reach for the gun in your desk. Try to reason with me.
You're insane. You're utterly insane.
I'm playing God, just as you have with me for 6 months. Only it doesn't take me as long. Now I'm going to give you a prognosis, Doctor. When Margaret gets here, if she gets here, you're going to watch her die. Then I'm going to watch you die.
And now, starring Mr. Jack Carson, Act 4 of Analytical Hour.
It's been a half hour, Doctor. It doesn't appear Margaret's going to make it, does it?
Are you going to let her die just for the sake of vengeance?
Vengeance? That's a relative term, like hate. And hate is a relative term. You said so, Doctor.
But premeditated murder...
Murder is not a relative term. It's final and irrevocable. I prefer it to wife-stealing and deception.
I could only...
But you can't. What's the matter, Doctor? Having a little trouble breathing?
You poisoned me, too.
Ah, of course.
I'll kill you. I'll kill you with my bare hands.
And now you speak of killing. Less than an hour ago, you said no man in his right mind would kill another human being, no matter what the provocation. Are you not in your right mind, Doctor?
My arms. I can't raise them.
Ah, the poison is working.
You devil.
Would you like to hear how it was done? Last night, Margaret attended a club banquet, or so she told me. But you and I know that she had drinks and hors d'oeuvres with you in your apartment, and then the two of you went out to dinner. Is that right?
Yes.
It was the hors d'oeuvres, special kind you both like so well. You keep quite a supply of them in little glass jars. It was easy for me to introduce the botulism culture while you were out. I believe someone's in the outer office.
Margaret.
She seems to be having some difficulty.
Margaret, run! Find the doctor! Margaret!
Hello, my dear. Sorry. I really am sorry. But not for either one of you. Respiratory paralysis, Doctor. The final stage.
You won't get away with it, you.
I want to thank you for calling her over, Doctor. It works out even better than I had planned it. Somebody will find the two of you in the morning, sprawled out like the last act of Romeo and Juliet, and it will all fit. Both of you dead of botulism. Poisoned by the snacks you had alone together in your apartment. And me? Nobody saw me walk in. And nobody sees me walk out. It couldn't be better.
You.
Goodbye, Doctor.
Hey, is anybody in there?
Who is it?
Police.
Police?
Did a woman come in here?
What woman, officer?
She was driving like she was drunk. Ran through 2 red lights. She came in this building.
Is that her, officer?
Yeah. What's the matter with her?
She's dead.
And him?
He's dead, too.
What do you know about this?
Enough. Enough to hang me.
Suspense, in which Jack Carson starred in William N. Robeson's production of Analytical Hour, written by Alan Botzer. Supporting Jack Carson in tonight's story were John Hoyt and Sam Pierce. Listen. Listen again next week, when we return with another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. This is the United